Ross Tucker played for Bill Belichick. Did you ever talk to Bill Belichick while you played in New England, Ross?
Yeah, 3 times, I think.
Okay. How long were those 3 conversations?
Actually, you know what? 4 times. The first 3 were probably 3 to 5 words, I would say. The last time we actually had a sit down was when he traded me to Cleveland. That was the only time I actually had a conversation with him. No, they signed me midway, Dan, through the 05 season. I just went in the team meeting room, and it was the first meeting, and he walked up the steps to meet me, and I stand up to shake his hand. He says, "You don't have to stand up." And that was it. And then about a week later in practice, I fell on the ground, and he had this really interesting way and ability to talk to you without anybody else knowing he was talking to you as he was walking by you. So I fell in practice. All of a sudden, like behind my right ear, I heard somebody say, "Stay off the freaking ground, Tucker." And then when we played Jacksonville in the playoffs, Jacksonville's starting center was actually my teammate at Princeton. And he said, like over my left shoulder, walking away, "We got half the Princeton offensive line in this game." Those are the only 3 things he said to me, Dan, until I got traded to Cleveland. I promise you.
Did he know your name?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't ever use it, but I think he was generally aware of it, yes.
All right, full introduction. Ross will be on the call tonight. The Eagles at the Jets, 7:30 Eastern on the Eagles television network. A couple of things here that we'll get to. Who do you think has a better chance get back to the Super Bowl, Chiefs or the Buccaneers?
I'll say Bucks, and I'll say the Bucks for 2 reasons. Number one, I think the NFC is easier. You know, you look at the AFC, I think Buffalo's legit, Cleveland's legit, Baltimore has a shot, even maybe Pittsburgh has an outside shot. You look at the NFC, Dan, how many teams in the NFC do we really think can beat Tom Brady and this Buccaneers team in the playoffs? I think Green Bay, maybe. I guess one of the NFC West teams, if Russell Wilson or Matthew Stafford goes crazy, but I don't see it happening. So the combination of the NFC being easier and the Chiefs essentially having 3 rookie offensive linemen starting at center, right guard, and right tackle, I'll lean with the Bucks.
Handicap the NFC East for me. Washington ended up winning that division, but you're looking at a division that might be the worst division in football.
I think it's pretty jumbled again, man. I really do. I think all 4 teams probably win between 7 and 10 games, maybe 6 and 10 games. I happen to think, and people will say I'm biased, but I think the Eagles are going to be better than outside opinions seem to think. They have a top 5 offensive line and defensive line if those guys stay healthy. And Carson Wentz, unfortunately, led the NFL in interceptions and sacks last year and didn't play the last 4 games. I mean, think about basketball or baseball, these other sports, Dan. You lead the league in 2 categories and you don't play 25% of the season. If Hurts just throws 5 less interceptions and takes 5 less sacks, there's a couple wins right there. The team I don't have a great handle on is the Giants. I think Washington is the favorite. I know everybody says Dallas. To me, Dallas still has issues on defense, and there's a lot of injury concerns there. Dak and Amari Cooper, the offensive line still. I think Washington, they won the division last year. The defense is beastly. I like some of their additions, and I think they're going to get much better quarterback play in Ryan Fitzpatrick than they got from Alex Smith and Dwayne Haskins last year.
Yeah, the defense is going to be elite. It'll be right there with the Rams as the best defense in football. My concerns are the skill position players for Washington and with Ryan Fitzpatrick because he's a great story, but he giveth and he taketh away. They don't have a great tight end. They don't have a great number 1 wide receiver. They don't have that marquee running back. But can you win with defense in the NFL? I guess that's what it comes down to because the Rams realized, hey, we can have a great defense. We still need to have offense. Let's go out and get Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, well, so for the Washington skill guys, I think they're all probably a little bit better than you give him credit for. Terry McLaurin, Logan Thomas, Antonio Gibson. And your point about Fitz is well taken, Dan. Every fourth game or so, he has a bad game, right? But they don't need to go 14-3 or 13-4. They probably only need to win 10 or 11 games. So he can have a Fitz stinker, every fourth or fifth game, as long as the other 3 or 4 he plays well.
So there's Fitz Magic and Fitz Stinker.
I just made that up, and I'm actually really good friends with him, and I'm probably going to hear about this later. I don't know where that came from, and I apologize to everyone.
Did you face him in college?
No, he was, I think he was a freshman when I was a senior. And it's a shame that evidently he wasn't able to get accepted to Princeton and go to the number one school in the country.
If I said you could never tell anybody you went to Princeton and never wear any kind of gear that said you went to Princeton, would you have gone to Princeton?
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
You know why? Well, first of all, I don't need to say I went to Princeton because it seems like everybody already knows. The gear thing is an issue, though, Dan, because every time I go back, they give me a bunch of stuff. So I have all my dry fit stuff is Princeton, which is hilarious because when I drop my daughters off at their private school, everybody looks at me as I think I'm great or some academic snob. They have no idea. Meanwhile, I'm meathead James Vanderbeek. They think I think I'm some academician. By the way, they all care way more about academics than I do.
Meathead James Vanderbeek.
Yeah, you see my shirt, Dan?
Let's see. No such thing as boneless wings. That's one of ours. That's an old school shirt.
That's right. I don't know if it's still available on the website, but it's one of my favorites because you wear this anywhere, especially if you wear this around fancy people. It sets a tone right away about where the conversation is going to be for the rest of that day.
He's Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Eagles preseason color analyst. Are you pro Cleveland Browns?
Yes, very much so. Very much so. Their roster is so good. It's kind of unbelievable, isn't it? That, what was it, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, they won one game, and now I'm not sure there's a better roster in the NFL top to bottom. I mean, it's right there with Buffalo and Tampa and Kansas City. Really, the difference between the Browns and those other three teams is whether or not Baker Mayfield can play at that high of a level. The way Josh Allen played last year, Mahomes, of course, Brady, of course. But other than that, I mean, they get Odell Beckham Jr. back. They've got two good tight ends, the best offensive line in football, two good running backs. Now they've got a really good defensive line that they invested in. I love the guys they got in the secondary, like John Johnson from the Rams. It's kind of weird to be on your show talking about the Browns having maybe the best roster in football, but it's a beautiful roster. They've done an awesome job.
Do they have a great quarterback or a good quarterback?
I think so far they have a good quarterback. I think Kevin Stefanski did an unbelievable job with them last year. And let's be honest, Dan, if you're playing behind the best O-line in the league and you have the best running back duo, and you're averaging whatever it is, over 5 yards a carry, and most of what you're doing in the passing game is off of bootlegs and play action, it would be really weird if Baker Mayfield hadn't played pretty well last year, right? You're not going to get a better situation than Baker Mayfield had last year and has this year, which, by the way, is what makes the contract situation for him kind of interesting, right? Do you pay him over $40 million when I would venture to guess there's at least 20 guys in the NFL that could perform as well as Baker did last year under the same circumstances?
Yeah, it's tricky. I don't want to pay him too soon. I might have to pay him a little bit more, but I want to see what this season's all about. Can you imagine your former coach, Bill Belichick, having a starting quarterback, Mac Jones, start the season opener?
I can. Yeah. The fact that he put Brady in that second year after Bledsoe got hurt and then never put Bledsoe back in, I think Belichick just goes with who he thinks the better guy is. And that was proof of it. Brady didn't really play that great while Bledsoe was hurt. They just won a bunch of games, and they thought, we think he's playing a little better than Drew, but it wasn't like he was Tom Brady back then. I think if Belichick believes Mac Jones is 0.1% better than Cam Newton, that he'll start Mac Jones. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he'll start Cam Newton in the opener. But honestly, Dan, if Cam Newton has a bad first half in the opener, I wouldn't be surprised if Mac Jones goes in there.
It feels like the offense is built more for Mac Jones because Bill and Josh McDaniels are accustomed to that style of quarterback, that guy who has the same characteristics here. Cam is just a rental. The question is, how long are you renting him for? Because nobody else was interested in Cam Newton until Bill brought him in. You got running backs. You got a good offensive line. The defense will probably be formidable. Skill position, you brought in some, new tight ends, but I don't know if it's a great offense here. That's why I still keep leaning towards Cam. I think Cam gives them a dimension that they need this year, where maybe they won't need that next year because they will go out and get a couple of wide receivers to help out Mac Jones. What do you think of that philosophy?
Totally agree. The Patriots played the Eagles last week. So I was talking with some people for the Patriots. Dan, they are going to run the crap out of the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, their rookie running back, Ramondre Stevenson from Oklahoma, he is a stud. Their offensive line is legit. And I think, quite frankly, now that they have Mac Jones as a number 2 and even Brian Hoyer as a 3, I think they're going to run Cam Newton a lot.
Yeah.
I think they think that's their way to win games, is to run the heck out of the ball. And I think they'd rather do that and have that element with Cam early and see how that goes.
Great to talk to you as always. We'll talk to you during the season. Have fun tonight. Thank you, buddy.
My pleasure, Dan. I wanted to say congratulations on the Hall of Fame. To be honest, I kind of thought you were already in it, but congratulations. It's awesome.
Thank you, Ross. You're right. It was an oversight by the Hall of Fame. It took a little longer than it should, but thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Take care.
That's Ross Tucker, former NFL lineman, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. He'll be on the call for the Eagles at the Jets, 7:30 Eastern on the Eagles television network.